Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. We have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it's going to be Eris taking on its Protoss counterpart, Deimos. And yeah, this match looks like it should be very cool, as we do have the tag Double Stargate Phoenix to start it off, which is not something I think we've seen before, so it should be a fun one. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, as always, you guys blow it out of the water. If you haven't already, click that like button. Just give it a little click. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And leave a comment down below saying more bots if you want to see more bots. You can leave me feedback on the videos or ideas for bots, that kind of thing. I do generally read most of the comments. And yeah, let's see where this one's going to go, as we do have Eris just going for a standard Zerg opening. I do want to point out that Deimos did have the little bit of probe shaking at the start of the game there, which is not optimal. I think it was probably like 3 or 4 workers not mining for a few seconds at least, which definitely wasn't great. So little efficiencies, but it is kind of interesting how that just happens to Deimos, it doesn't happen to Eris or Phobos, I believe. And yeah, let's see here, as we do have a Cyber Core on the way from Deimos. So going for the Cyber Core before a possible expansion. Double gas is on the way, as it should be, if we are going to potentially see that double Stargate, like it said. Deimos does send, I think that was like 2-3 probes to the low ground, and then it sent them back. One obviously was needed to build the Nexus, but again, little efficiencies like that in your bot can have big results over time, almost maybe unseen ones in the results, because it's very hard to track like the overall impact like one probe not mining for a few seconds here and there has, but it definitely does add up. Now we do get that Stargate on the way from Deimos. No Adept, no Warp Gate started yet. There's the Adept on the way, which is a must-have for Protoss. Oh, and pardon me, that is the second Adept on the way. There's already one out crossing the map. And then we do have speed on the way for Eris, just having to deal with this little bit of Adept harassment. That's the sort of thing that you've got to decide as a bot author if you've got multiple projects, Zerg, Protoss, and Terran. It's like, okay, I'm gonna program my Adept to harass workers. So how do I today do I program my Zerg bot to respond to Adept harassment more? And those are the kind of conundrums you have. Now we do have a Phoenix on the way for Deimos. So the first one, no second Stargate is on the way just yet. I mean, that's quite pricey. It does have the resources to do that technically, so we'll see if it goes for that soon. It's just about at 150 gas once more. No second Stargate being built yet, just a couple more gases on the way. As Deimos is beginning to poke its opponent. It's quite comical as the first Phoenix flies across the map. It will be completely useless, but perhaps the second one can get something done. Finding these Overlords would be quite nice, and one of them has been found. Meanwhile, the Adepts are constantly putting pressure on the Zerg bot right now. There is a Roach Warren to help respond to potential aggression, but I'm not sure how much that's going to help against a bot that is now going double Stargate Phoenix. The Adepts are still shading around. Looks like they're trying to get some work done. One of the Adepts has perished. Drones, meanwhile, have mined out this wall. And a Phoenix does find a Queen, so that's quite nice for Deimos. You want to keep the Queen count low when you're going into Phoenix. Now, they were unable to kill it with the first lift. They will get it with the second one, so that's nice. Another lift goes down on a Queen. However, I think that one is going to require at least one more lift, as the Phoenix weren't attacking right away there. So, not the most success here. An Adept does shade into the main base. Lings will get a surround on that, though. We do have more Queens being produced from Eris, but still no Spore Crawlers to respond to the Phoenix. And that count is growing quite quickly, as, I mean, you start going into Phoenix, then you add on a second Stargate, you really build up your Phoenix count quite quickly. Queens are just constantly being lifted here by Deimos. Now, Eris hasn't taken really too much real damage. It's just lost queens so far, 3 in total. But eventually these Phoenix can start to pick up drones, kill off overlords, that kind of thing. So hopefully Eris is able to get a defense up. It does have a Hydra Den on the way. But so far, still no Spore Crawlers. Lings are handling the Adepts on the ground, but the Phoenix in the sky remain unchecked. Meanwhile, Deimos, it's got double Stargate on the way, a Robo for a transition behind this. Yet another Overlord goes down. That's the 4th one to perish. But I mean, once Eris does start pumping out Hydras, this should be fine, as long as it positions them correctly. There is even a 4th base on the way now for the Zerg bot. We definitely do need to see those Hydras start being made from Eris soon, though, as the Phoenix are still causing problems and Overseer is going to go down. I worry if the bulk of the Overlords gets found by these Phoenix, as they do fly towards that main base. We finally get some Spore Crawlers, better late than never, I suppose. But then we're seeing some roaches, so not necessarily the best answer to this from Eris. I'm guessing it's building roaches because it's seen some scary stalkers maybe. We're now getting a lot more Spore Crawlers on the way as Eris goes up to 6, so that's going to help defend these units. The spores instantly cause those Phoenix to change their position and to stop just hanging out over that mineral line. That one finishes, and then we get that instant reaction. Lings are trying to surround the few stalkers of Deimos, but they decide they can't take that fight. The Lings are still denying that 3rd base attempt from the blue Protoss, so Eris is having some nice results there. I suppose that's the pain of going for a lot of Phoenix and delaying the Robo, is you might not get an Observer to handle that. We should definitely get an Observer soon from Deimos in order to free up this base, as usually it's all right at cleaning those out. Finally, an Observer gets fired up. Around the same time, we get a few Hydras on the way. The Phoenix, meanwhile, are still just taunting these roaches. We're actually going to get some of them lifted up. It's very satisfying if you play Protoss when you get enough Phoenix to start killing off beefy units like roaches. Now, Eris is still on 65 workers, getting up a gold base. It's kind of just been ignoring the Phoenix. And still, Deimos is not able to get up a 3rd base. There should be the Observer coming, and it finally does pop on over. Hydras are being produced now by Eris, and as long as it pulls up enough, it should be fine. We're getting even more Spore Crawlers produced to respond to these Phoenix, which is really, really nice. Now, this one does get lifted up. It gets immediately dropped, though, as the Phoenix was debating that. I think the concern for Eris, if there is any, is gonna start pivoting away from these Phoenix into this big ground army that Deimos is going for. Those rocks do expire since they weren't covered in creep, so those attack pads are now opened up. If Deimos does want to attack on into this location, Eris will be mining from the gold base soon, which is quite nice. Yeah, I do think that it's going to become a ground-based threat instead of an air-based threat soon for Eris. Like, Eris is still building more Spore Crawlers. It's got up a whopping 12, going up to 14, which I think is a bit overkill. Personally, but I mean, static defense is always good. The army of Eris is quite small, though, and we are getting Deimos starting to push on out. There isn't any attack upgrades for Deimos. Meanwhile, Eris does have 1-1 on the way. These stalkers are coming forward, though the Hydras are not high enough in number, so the red Zerg is in quite a bit of trouble. It does do a good job of actually pulling the trigger here. Unfortunately, it's not very successful, as it just doesn't have enough units. Bringing in those Lings to actually commit to the fight was very impressive, that Eris sort of realized that despite that almost being a doomed engagement, it didn't work out. But now Deimos is just following up with this sledgehammer attack of stalkers on the ground. I mean, Eris, it invested in so many Spore Crawlers, I think it just needed to start building Hydras sooner. But that's a very difficult line to walk as far as realizing, like, okay, what's my opponent really going for? I think the best thing Eris needs to do now is just try and pool up units frantically, get critical mass. That's not going to be easy when the Protoss army is separating these bases. It's quite unfortunate for Eris to have Deimos just roll on up here, because it does have a phenomenal economy. And if it can buy a little bit of time, unfortunately there is an Observer as well that can reveal these burrowed roaches, which will definitely cause problems. The roaches just die in the ground, And then Eris is just kind of trickling out units. So despite having an upgrade lead, the red Zerg is just unable to match this Protoss army. The Spore Crawler's helping maybe zone out the Colossi a little bit. It actually does shoot the Colossi a bit, but there's just no units here for Eris at this point, basically. And yeah, that's the difficult thing. You got to constantly update what you're doing based off what you see from your opponent, and maybe Eris didn't scout that ground army of Deimos enough, or maybe it was just too much of an overreaction and too little too late. It wouldn't have mattered what what Eris would have done potentially, because by the time, like, yeah, it was kind of doomed building 14 Spore Crawlers, I think. So Deimos is going to come on in and clean everything up. The Phoenix play seems quite powerful though, and yeah, I'm not sure what Eris should have done different there. Just maybe build the Hydras a little bit quicker. Like, I think building the Roaches there wasn't like, it built Roaches when it pretty much just had Phoenix. I think Deimos had maybe 3 Stalkers on the map, but then there was still the Phoenix. So it's like, okay, maybe, I don't know how Eris works as far as unit counters, but the only thing I can assume it was that it said, hey, there's Stalkers, build some Roaches. And that's why it built Roaches instead of building Hydras first. Whereas if it builds the Hydras first, maybe it gets enough up, scares the Phoenix away, doesn't have to invest in so many Spore Crawlers, that sort of thing. It's difficult to say. Still a very cool game, and we are going to go into one of the micro battles after this, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned, as I think they're a very good way in order to sort of pad the video so you don't quite get a spoiler by the video length. And yeah, just let me know what you think of those in the comments down below as we wait for Deimos to clean everything up. Deimos still only on 3 bases, so like, Eris has done a good job of delaying that economy with those burrowed lings, but unfortunately it doesn't matter, as the red Zerg is going to go down here. GG. All right, so we've actually got a Zerg versus Zerg micro Cannonana against Bullbot for this one today, as it's going to be good old Roach versus a Roach, as Bullbot just dives right on in. There is Burrow, so both of these bots can potentially burrow their units to pull them back and regen. However, there's Overseers for both sides, so the effectiveness of that is questionable here. Cannonana, in theory, should do quite well, as it is a top ladder bot, and so it should have very good micro playing Zerg. It's actually a random bot, so it does handle Bullbot. Well done there by Cannonana. Now Bullbot is the aggressor. Cannonana is getting set up for this. The Roaches are spilling forward. Bullbot is so aggressive with its micro, just stepping right into its opponent's face. Now, how's the target fire looking? It's looking pretty good for Bullbot in this engagement. The overall numbers are fairly close. 6 to 7 Roaches presently. A couple of very injured ones are on the right side for Bullbot. It's doing a great job microing those injured ones back to keep them alive a little bit longer. It's not perfect, though, when your opponent is trying to target fire down those red ones. But man, oh man, Bullbot with some very injured remaining Roaches does seem like it will just take this one, I think. Oh, just so close as the match gets tied on up. Now we do have Micro Cannonana going to be engaging with Bullbot once more. Roaches charging forward while Hydras put out lots of damage in the back. There is no burrow in this one, so it really is just pure buffering, target fire. Injured Hydras being microed back. This one's so close yet again. I think Bullbot's just slightly got the edge. Yes, as it does a good job pulling back just the odd injured unit here and there to really make a big difference, it seems. We now have a rematch. Cannonana is on the defenders as Roaches move forward. They get targeted down so quickly by the Hydras. I think Cannonana may be losing a little bit of fire time with keeping these Hydras as far back as it does, but still the concave is quite nice, and it's going to be tied up yet again as Cannonana wins this one. These two Zerg bots are very good when it comes to micro. Now, Bullbot is moving forward once again. Cannonana pulling the Ravagers, the Hydras back. You kind of see that from the ladder play a little bit, where it's like, oh, it's so important to keep these units alive. Neither of these Zerg bots is utilizing Corrosive Bile, which could be wasted opportunity potentially, I think. And I think as far as the numbers go, Bullbot will just take this one. Pretty straightforward on that. The lack of Corrosive Bile from both sides is quite quite comical. Now Cannonana is on the defender's side once again, so Bullbot runs on in. Roaches buffering, trying to break the lines there, but I mean, all the roaches are gone on each side. Cannonana does seem to do better on the defenders, as it does still even have some of those high damage Hydras remaining. Bullbot does a good job pulling back those injured Ravagers, but so does Cannonana as well. And we're tied up yet again, so I really have no idea. This one could very well be a tie, as we've got Infestors on both sides of the map. Infestors are Cannonana's units. However, they actually do not do anything in this round. That is disastrous. And oh man, yeah, you cannot win if you're not using those spells. So the programming of Cannonana really went haywire there, as Bullbot just deletes it. Oh, ouch, for Cannonana. That's a little embarrassing. But we do have, yeah, the Infestors of Cannonana just wander forward. I'm not sure what it's trying to do. Maybe it's trying to, like, utilize Neural, but it doesn't have Neural or something like that. Whereas Bullbot, a bot that is just programmed for the ladder, is quite darn good in these situations. As far as I know, Bullbot is one of the top bots on the micro ladder, yet the bot author hasn't created an actual bot. Like on the main ladder, once again, we do have fungal versus no fungal, so the result of this one is not in question at all. And we even get a Neural on the Hydra, so Bullbot flexing a little bit, as it does take the lead in this series. And now Cannonana is just playing for dignity. Once again, we have an Infestor round, so a bit of a bugging out from Cannonana, but you can't be surprised when you got two Zergs to see Infestors, and that is not great. So yeah, I wonder what went on there. As I think this one will be more of the same, so Bullbot kind of wins by default. If Cannonana used the Infestors, this very well could have been a draw or a victory for the Red Zerg, so that's a little unfortunate. Goes to show programming ain't easy, and it is actually a Bullbot victory, so well done, and GG.